Hi guys.
How do you know if the
From me,
feed's
Brent
on?
Graham. Welcome. Well, we are now live, Brendan. Sorry, conductor pointed out that I started rambling on and I hadn't started the feed. But anyway, welcome to the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters. I can confirm we're live now. I can confirm that noise in the background is my generator for the second week in a row. This is not load shedding. This is a power cut for the last 4 hours. Anyways, let's get on with the show. Plenty to chat about. And let me first of all start by introducing a General Della Ray down there at the bottom of the screen. It's a conductor. Conductor, really appreciate you coming on the show, mate. I know you've been taking it easy from a punting point of view, but I gather that you're working your way back into things quite nicely.
Yeah, Brent. Look, I had a couple of punts on the weekend, but man alive, I had a massive smack on Sunday. I must have the kind of smack that I must have said something about Will Smith's wife, because I got a hell of a smack on my punting on Sunday. I took some points bets. Two of my bets in the Super Rugby lost by 1 point in the Brumbies game, and then there was 49 points scored in the Rebels game to kill my unders. So I decided I was going to take under 68.5 in the England women's versus Ireland women's game. There was 10 points in the first half, and then 59 points in the second half. I've never seen anything like it. It was just insane.
To lose by half a point after all that, I mean, that's unbelievable.
I mean, normally I like a 69 on a Sunday, but just not when I have it in points. So yeah, I spent the entire week trying to find the gypsy who's Jack Russell. I must have driven over to plead for forgiveness, because that was 3 sick beats by half. Three bets lost by half a point. So. To be honest, I haven't done too much rugby reading this week. Taking it easy, so I might be a little bit uncertain on some of the stuff, but I'm going to try my best.
Excellent, man. We'll look forward to it. And yeah, we've got plenty of rugby to talk about. So any games that you're not sure on or whatever, feel free to pass over. Let's go up to the top of the screen there and introducing from the United Kingdom, the land of Tyson Fury. It's Brendan O'Connell. And believe it or not, he's sitting at the gym at the moment. Brendan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. The good news is I've actually had my workout already, but I realized that I wouldn't be back in time. And so, yeah, I've just settled down nicely in the old lounge here. And yeah, hopefully I can find a few winners. I had a good Champions Week a fortnight ago, followed up by disastrous last weekend. I went head-on-head with some of the Hevs on the show, especially with the Falcons. They never rocked up. I got a little bit back with Saris on the Sunday, but overall it was a poor weekend, and I'm hoping to improve this weekend a little bit.
Excellent. Well, welcome to all the boys in the live chat. We got Mark, we got Peter Paul, we got Johan Estes, and guys are coming from all over here. We got Johan from the Middle East, and who did I see at the top of the show? Oh, it was Peter Paul also coming in from southwest of Africa. Did you say, Peter Paul? I've got to find that one. Evening from southeast South Africa. And yeah, the Crow Tips also coming in. And John Owen just saying the Rebels are becoming the surest thing to cover the handicap in Super Rugby. Well, I tell you what, John, they certainly made me sweat last week. But let's, on that note, get straight into the Super Rugby, because we've got a host of Super Rugby games to talk about. I'm just going to get to it now. And the first game, and Brendan, I'm going to start with you here. We've got the Reds up against the Chiefs. The Reds at home and plus 5.5 at home against the Chiefs.
Yeah, Brent, I actually quite fancy the Reds here. Just a pity they lost Vunivalu. He apparently his hamstring is a bit tight, so apparently they're going to rest him till next week. So Fluke and Filipu Dangunu on the wing. I thought that Crichton kid at 10 went okay. I think it's Crichton. Yeah, I think he went okay at 10 last week. I just thought they were, I thought they had a good game. I just really couldn't convert their chances like they should have. But they came back quite nicely. I'm not at all too impressed with this Chiefs team. Guys like Cortis Ratama, I don't really rate him as a 9. Puihipi in the centre and Gatland, I'm not massive fans of. But powerful Lustrio and Bashir, Gus and Kane has flown home for the birth of his child. So Jacobson coming in there. But similarly, I think the loose trio, I'm really, really impressed with Fraser McWright of the Reds. He's really impressed me. And similarly, Harry Wilson, he carries well, always makes good yards. So man for man, I do rate this Reds team. I think the Chiefs will win it, but I think it's going to be a tight game. So I'm happy to take the plus 5.5.
I also do like the +5.5. I'm just chuckling to myself a little bit though, because when obviously you can't see who I'm looking at out of the two of you, but I said, Brendan, we'll start with you, and I looked at Brendan O'Connell, and then suddenly I heard Brendan Vessels' voice. I seem to remember that I've got two Brendans on the show, but let's go to Coyle O'Connell now. Coyle, what do you make of this one? Brendan and I both, or Conductor and I both like the Reds plus.
I don't blame you. Yeah, they're a decent side. I think the Battle of the Loose Trio is certainly going to be something to watch. I'm looking forward to that. I think the Chiefs might just edge it in that department, but I do agree with sort of the general sort of the 9-10 combination of the Chiefs not being the greatest. That Reds number 10 that played last week, that took over from O'Connor, was named Crichton. Yeah, he didn't do too bad actually. I thought he played better than expected. And I think that I think the handicap's reasonably well priced. If anything, I'd probably lean towards the Reds, but I'm also looking at a little bit of an unders here. The possibility of a bit of a few showers, sort of early afternoon, which might just freshen up a little bit. 48.5. Yeah, I might just have a small interest on the unders there, and then a small interest on the Reds. But I'm not going to get too involved because it's one of those games, where the Chiefs, if they show up, they could beat the handicap reasonably well. And I'm just hoping that it's going to be kept tight, and as a result, the handicap might have a chance, and then the unders as well. So that's kind of the way I'm leaning. Sadly, I actually didn't see who the referee was for that game, but that'll kind of be like the final cherry on top. If it's an unders ref, then I'll certainly have a larger wager. Paul Williams, not too bad. So I'm confident enough for that. Yeah, so a little bit of an unders and a little bit of the plus, but I won't be getting too involved in this one because it's potentially dangerous. Yeah.
So just quickly before we go, we'll start the next game with you then, Conductor. But quick comment on points there, 48.5. Anything?
I actually like, although I find the Chiefs to be a bit of an unders team, that line is low. Reds do play good positive rugby, especially with Tate McDermott and his style of play, sniping and then breaking off the side of the ruck there. It does feel a touch low. I'd probably edge a little bit overs, but there's nothing that sort of strikes me as a massive bet there. Like I said, I think the Reds will play. I think the Reds will really be keen up for this one. But I always see Chiefs as a bit of an unders team, so there's nothing. I might go overs for interest, but nothing unless there's something that's really catching my fancy there. I'm not going to go massively on overs.
Right. Well, if Hendrik Swart is the unders taker, the Crow tips I can tell you is the overs taker. He's going over 48. And welcome to Kevin also joining the show now. But Conductor, will stick with you for the next game, and that is the Western Force up against the Blues. And just shout if you see any of my handicaps wrong. I didn't get a chance to proofread them before I put them up. I was a bit rushed tonight with the power failure. But Force plus 23.5 Conductor against the Blues.
Brent, not touching this game at all. I can't trust the Force. I think they had 24 players out with COVID, and that's why they had to cancel their game against Moana Pacifica. Apparently, they've just literally some of their players have just come out of quarantine. Look, they got back. On paper, they've got back Tom Robinson and Katu'u. Starting with Isaac Rodda, and also Tony Pulu is back from head concussion. So a far better Force team. And then trying to trust the Blues to cover a big handicap is also not great. Although I would say it's although they lose Rika Ioane and Hoskins Atutu, and I think they lost another player as well. I think they got back Christie. The big one was Caleb Clark back from suspension. And Akira Ioane in the loose, and Delta Papali'i is starting as well. So I think it's a far better Blues side this week. But for me, there's just too many unknowns. Apparently the Force have only 2 training sessions, this past week. So I'm not sure what condition they're going to be in. What is the state of the guys coming back from COVID? The Blues could cover this, but I don't. Like I said, it's a no bet for me. I'd probably take the plus. Really, because Blues don't like to cover a big handicap, but like I said, I'm not sure the condition of the Force guys, and especially with Caleb Clark being back, he can be absolutely devastating. When you've got a backline of Christie, Barrett, Lamb, Heem, Clark. It's a absolutely deadly back line. So it's a no bet for me here.
Sounded like you were trying to talk yourself into a bet there for a while, the conductor. But just quickly before I move on to Coyle, and 57.5 is the points line. Anything there for you?
I'd go unders there. Yeah, Western Force love to hold the ball. Actually, possession merchants, they do tend to go phase after phase after phase and not do much with it. And the Blues defense, when they're playing in the NZ comp, was absolutely brutal, especially against the Crusaders. So I probably would like the unders there. It seems very high for a Western Force game, but I don't expect them to score many points. But I just wonder how many points the Blues going to score. So I'd head towards unders there.
Right, let's go up to Coyle. And Coyle, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, my eyes almost popped out of my head when I saw the 57.5 quote. Definitely unders there. I'm all over that. That'll be my main strike in this. Basically thinking, the Force are probably going to hog the ball, exactly like Brendan says. They might score the odd try here or there, but they're possession specialists, eh? And it's a little bit of a concern, that they had so many members or team members anyway that had COVID or that were lying low or whatever the case might be. So they're slightly weaker than they should be, but I'm pretty confident on the unders 57.5, and I'm going to have sort of a half of the under stake on the plus as well. I think the Force are going to be out to frustrate them, and I think the Blues are going to battle to cover the handicap. I mean, they certainly can if they rock up. I mean, they've got the potential to, but the Blues really are. I mean, in fact, both these sides can be bogey sides at times, but under 57.5, it's one of my best bets for tomorrow on the Friday, and then a reasonable strike on the plus 23.5. I might even have a look to see, if the Blues could score early on, I might be able to get a slightly higher plus in running. But if not, I'll certainly be starting the game on plus 23.5. But main strike under 57.5 for sure.
Right, I also like that unders play there. I was leaning on the plus quite heavily, but I didn't know the COVID stories because I handicapped this game plus 14.5 Force. But let's stay with you, Coyle O'Connell, for the next game. Fijian Drua plus 10.5 against the Highlanders. That price at Sunbet. You're going to back the Drua at home in front of their screaming fans.
These screaming fans, eh? Gosh, I mean, it's always dangerous, eh, to back out the Fijians or the Manoa Pacificas, whatever they're called. I've managed to catch them right most of the season, thankfully. I've got a feeling here that the Fijians might fancy their chances somewhat, but I just get a feeling I'm going to go with the Highlanders on this a little bit. It's not a confident bet. Sort of my head kind of lent me towards the plus, but I've got a feeling that the Highlanders will be ready for them. And I think the Highlanders really need this win as well, more than maybe the Fijians. And as a result, the 10.5, or it's a converted try and a penalty and a little bit more. So it's not going to be a big strike, but I'm going to have an interest on the Highlanders. Total points, I couldn't really be interested in total points either. Yeah,
I see no line yet. Conductor, I'm leaning the other way on this game. I must say, I think the Drua are going to give a good account of themselves, and I give them an outside chance of putting the win off them.
Yeah, Brent, to be honest, this was actually the only bet I've got involved in so far. I took the Drua to win at 7-1. I've actually been lining this game up for a long time because this is their first game. They're playing in Suva. And they will be like men possessed, like they'll be going off like dogs in a butcher shop. They're going to be crazy. It's literally fun in their fans. The ANZ Stadium in Suva is not massive. I think it accommodates about 17,000. But I think with the way they'll be going dilly, the fans will make it seem like it's a 60,000 seater at Twickenham. So it's going to be absolutely crazy. These guys will be actually jack playing in front of their home fans. They're going to want to show off, play incredible rugby, run it from everywhere, massive. I mean, we've seen some massive physicality from them so far, but I think it's going to be tackles are going to be next level. So I expect them to run it from everywhere. This Highlanders side, I actually thought about it earlier. I don't know. I can't think of a worse Highlanders side I've ever seen in my life. I try to think, there might have been a bad Highlanders side, but this Highlanders side is awful. I think they've only won think 3 of 15 or something like that. It's a shocking record. They had their chances against Brumbies, but they're just toothless. And moving Mitch Hunt back to 10 is probably not going to solve it. He obviously didn't play at 10 last week. He was shifted back to 15, but the week prior to that, man alive, he was awful. I mean, he can't kick off the tee. I think his confidence actually shot. Look, it's a slightly better Highlanders team with Billy Harmon coming back into the starting loose trio, and Sam Gilbert also starting. I thought he was good off the bench last week, but I just think this Highlanders side is terrible. So I really like Drew on the plus. I like Drew on the board. It may be that Highlanders can upset them, but it's going to be against the odds there. I was chomping at the bits to take overs until I saw Brendan Pickerel on the whistle. It was very disappointing. He just tends to penalise the attacking teams so often. It's definitely not the right ref for this game. So, but if I can get a lowish line, I still may be willing to look at overs, just purely because of the Drua style. But Highlanders are betting to score. That's my only concern. So probably, as opposed to taking overs, I'll probably just look at Drua points, overs on Drua, because I think they're going to run it from everywhere and just try, and they will. I'm sure they'll put a couple of meat pies. So yeah, look, I did see some of the guys mentioning the weather. Every time it's so funny. Every time I go into the weather app, the weather's different. So it's typical island weather. It's sunny, then it's forecast rain, etc. So there is a bit of rain forecast and a bit of humidity. But I think these guys are so used to playing in these conditions, it doesn't really make much of a difference. So my main bet there will be definitely Drew on that plus. I think Islanders awful. I just can't see where the improvement's going to come from. There's just no, for me, they always used to have a guy like Ben Smith or some guy that was amazing just to sort of keep them in it. But there's nobody in that side that I would rate as a superstar just to keep them going. I mean, it was like Israel Folau for the Waratahs when the Waratahs were absolutely toilets. He'd often put off an incredible play to bring them back in it. I don't think there's many guys in the Highlanders side that'll be able to do that.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think just looking at all the live chat, Jason, by the way, is warning about the weather, but looking at the live chat, it looks like every punter in the world on the Drua and Brendan O'Connell on the Highlanders on this particular game. But let's go to the next one then, conductor. We've got the Waratahs plus 20.5 here against the Crusaders. And I know there was plus 22.5. Brett pointed it out on the Good for the Game forum, and I very quickly asked Chris to lock that in as our preview bet on Good for the Game. And I see it does appear to have come in slightly 20.5. I see 19.5 on player bets. Crusaders not at full strength. I think the Waratahs can beat the Cap here.
Yeah, Brent, I like the plus here. I think it opened at plus 23.5, and I think a lot of guys were very, very keen to take the plus. But I think the question around the Waratahs hookers, because they lost Dave Parecki and Horton as well, I think. So both, 2 hookers in one game against the Chiefs last week. So that and they had that really awful, the Waratahs couldn't have had more things happen to them. I think Harrison also hurt his knee, so they couldn't have had more things happen to them in that one game. They really had no rub of the green. So, and I don't think that was a true reflection of the Waratahs. I think I've been actually quite impressed with them lately. So, I agree with you on the plus. I'd much rather take the plus or the 20.5. The big difference there is no Richie Mwanga. If you look what he does, you look at how he broke open the Rebels last week with that stepping, and he puts guys through into space. I rate Fergus Burke. He's not a bad fly half, but he's just not the same. And Richie Mwanga can make that break, and that's the difference when you've got a guy like Will Jordan, on his shoulder, who can take that inside ball to score that easy try. Also, no Ethan Blackadder, who I rate massively. I'm not a big fan of Christie. He always reminds me of that guy from the Goonies. He always freaks me out a little bit. So, yeah. So I'm not so sure about this Crusaders team.
I'm going to Google the guy from the Goonies after this.
Yeah, he's that. Yeah, I don't want to say which guy because maybe I'm being nasty. So, but a bet that I'll be looking out for. I'm not super impressed with this Crusaders defense. So I'd like to look at Waratahs points. I think the Waratahs could get a couple of points on the board. Besides with the hooker, who's played a bit of rugby, they got their prop was let off from the red card that he received for the tip tackle, so he's back. Other than that, it's a strong Waratahs team, actually a really strong Waratahs team. So I fancy him to score a couple of points. So if I can get a points line of about 16.5, 17.5 for the Waratahs, I'd definitely like to look at overs there. Crusaders do play good attacking rugby, and they do open themselves up to a couple of try scoring opportunities against them. But yes, on the plus, and then I'd like to look at Waratahs overs.
Right, let's go to Coyle and get his views on this one. Coyle, I don't know about you. I mean, I like the plus here, but I always hate opposing the Crusaders because you never seem to be safe. But for me, I've looked at this Crusader side, and I'm on the Waratahs plus. Is Coyle still there with us? It looks like he might have frozen, actually. He's actually probably got to... Okay, we've probably got to move on. It looks like Coyle might have lost us there. Coyle, hopefully you'll be back with us soon. But let's move on to the next game, Conductor, and we'll go with you. Is it Conductor? Am I right? You're not hearing Coyle either. It's not just me.
No, I'm not hearing that. No, it looks like it might be frozen.
Okay, it looks like he's come. It looks like he's come back here. Let's somehow we've got to duplicate it. Let's get rid of that.
I am indeed.
So yes, Brendan, we were the same. Waratahs
seeing double. That's what the birds say.
20.5. Yeah, two Coils on the show is one too many, I'm afraid. Waratahs plus 20.5.
Yeah, I'll rubber stamp that for sure. Richie Mwanga, he's a big absence. Crusaders just haven't hit their straps this year as well. Waratahs' defense has certainly improved, and I think they're going to want to bounce back from last week's. It was a decent performance, like you say, but the scoreline didn't really represent the effort that they put in the game, I think. And as a result, I think the plus 20.5 is a decent play. Total points, I see there could be a few showers in the area, certainly throughout the afternoon and into the evening. So once again, just keep an eye on the old weather report. That'll certainly help with the handicap on the plus, I'd say. But for now, that's the only bet I'm going to call. The plus 20.5, the Tars, and I'm pretty confident about that one.
Excellent, please hear your confidence there as well. Let's move on to the next game, Brendan. And for Coyle, I'll stay with you here. Rebels minus 5.5 against Moana Pacifica. Now, the Rebels, as John, I think, mentioned earlier, have really been delivering some handicaps of late. I've got no idea. I was on the plus 30.5 last week. I honestly have no idea how to ride. At one stage, it looked like the Crusaders were going to kill them by 70. But credit to the Rebels. I guess they defended well, but the Crusaders kept butchering. The question is, can the Rebels continue the streak and beat another handicap?
I actually fancy them this weekend. They sort of ground out a couple of victories along the way. At times they've looked so mediocre. And then at other times they actually look like a little bit of a unit, and they actually look like they're reasonably competitive. I'm pretty confident in the minus 5.5. Sorry, just going back to the old Tom Christie. I think I know exactly who the conductor's talking about. Shane, the poor oak that was kept in chains, I presume. But I think he's a dead ringer. But but all jokes aside, I fancy the Rebels in this. I think 5.5 is certainly a cap that they can overcome, and I'm pretty confident in this one as well. Which sometimes worries me. I fancied the Waratahs quite strongly in the previous game, and I'm pretty confident in the Rebels as well. But I suppose you can only be as confident as you can be with the Rebels. But I think, you're looking at 6 points. I think it's easily achievable. And I just hope that they, that the right team rocks up tomorrow.
Yeah, I must say, Coyle, you can hear you've been punting for years. You never... When the more confident you are, the more nervous you are almost about a bet.
It's like, what don't you see? Like there's something wrong with this. But I'm pretty confident in this one as well.
Excellent. Let's get Conductor's view. Can we go with the Rebels again, Conductor?
Prince, I can't back the Rebels on a minus. There's absolutely zero chance I'm going to do that. So I will take a small play on Pacific on the plus. They obviously had last week off when they were supposed to play the Force. They'll be rested. I think they'll be chomping at the bit after having so many games in such a short space of time. They've had a bit of a break now. I do like that Tava Nawai, that left wing of theirs, is absolutely devastating. I'm not sure how well Kilaway is going to mark him. So, and I like that centre combination of Tafu and Amua. So I think the Pacifica could do some damage here. The Rebels have definitely improved in the last couple of weeks. But I must admit, for a team that's been strung together the last couple of months, I think Aaron Major's done okay with Pacifica. I think they don't look too bad. I mean, obviously they've already recorded a win against the Hurricanes with a great last minute try. So I think they can cover against the Rebels. Obviously Rebels did play okay last week against the Satyrs, getting relatively 17 points. But there's no one there in the Rebels team that really frightens me. I do think what is a positive for the Rebels, minus in terms of what Coyle is going for, is Carter Gordon coming in at 10. I thought he was far better than Tamua when he came on. So, that is a positive. But like I said, I'm leaning at Pacifica. I've been impressed with them so far. I think their physicality has been good. Sometimes their discipline can let them down a bit. They do tend to leak a lot of penalties in quick succession. But my bet there is Pacific on the plus.
Right, let's go to the last Super Rugby game. Brumbies +1.5 against the Hurricanes, and that's its unbet. Let's stay with you there, conductor.
Brent, I like Hurricanes strong on the board here. Originally, I was leaning Brumbies. If Brumbies had a big plus, I'd probably look at Brumbies in Canberra. But I looked at that Hurricane side. They've resisted the urge to do a big rotation. We're similar to Crusaders, who have left out a couple of guys like Bridge and Mwanga. The only guy I would have liked is Asaf Amua at 2, but O'Reilly is okay. He should be able to get the job done. I like the RD TJ combo there. They work very nicely together. And of course, a guy like Salesa Riasi is so incredibly dangerous, as well as Sullivan. Even the bus, Julian Sevier has found some form of late, and of course Jordy Barrett. But on the other hand, it is a very, very strong Brumbies side. Jerome Brown. I like him in the loose for the Brumbies. Lolacio's back playing good rugby. Nick White's head of experience. Tom Banks back at 15. So it's a good Brumbies side. I just rate this Hurricane side to be able to do it. So I think you can almost get choice at some bookies. So when it comes to a choice game of Brumbies versus Hurricanes, I'm leaning towards choice for Hurricanes there.
Right, Joe. Anywhere around the 9 to 10 mark there on the Hurricanes. Right, Coyle, let's get you to wrap up Super Rugby. Then we'll start the second half of the show. I don't want to push my generator too much past 10 o'clock if I can help it for the neighbours' sake. What do you like on this one?
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. I kind of lean towards the Hurricanes as well on this one. Although I think it's going to be a nail biter. I think this could go down to the wire. So I'm probably going to make it the least. I'll have the least exposure on this game on the Super Rugby on the weekend. I think I like the Hurricanes, but I feel that there's a potential booby trap waiting in the old shadows, and I might have a small interest perhaps if the Brumbies go up early. They're renowned to score points early on in past seasons and whatnot, and as a result, I think if I can get maybe plus the Hurricanes and running at some stage, I will. But otherwise, I'm probably just going to have a look at this. I'm not going to get too involved. I think the bookmakers have got it right, and I think this really could go down to a couple of points at the end of the day.
Excellent. Well, Peter Paul just pointing out I actually handicapped this game Brumbies -3.5. So I'm not necessarily going to follow that. That was just where I thought it would be, but I can understand where you're coming from. It was a little bit of a strange handicap from me there. Gentlemen, let's quickly take a quick break just to thank Manscaped for the partnership. The handicap is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below the waist grooming. Manscaped offers you precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped launched their 4th generation trimmer lawnmower 4.0. It was mentioned earlier in the show that the conductor could do with the new version, the 4.01 there, and you could join over 4 million men using Manscaped by taking advantage of this exclusive offer. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code GFTG at manscaped.com. Quality, service, and precision engineering when you need it most. Very quick word there, Brendan. Are batteries still going strong on your machine?
Still going strong, Brent. Just make the odd touch up here and there, but still going hell of a strong. No, it's got pride of place in my bathroom. It's always ready at hand, and yeah, and I actually use it almost on a daily basis just to trim here there. So no, it's definitely been a great addition to the bathroom.
Excellent. Well, I must admit, my son was at gym tonight with the Power Fade he left, and I couldn't find the machine. I tried to look at it so I could show it on the show, but I couldn't get it there. But look out, there's some big Father's Day promotions coming, and who knows, maybe we'll get something there to Coyle O'Connell in the UK as well. But let's push on, gentlemen. We're going to go to the URC now. We've got a number of games to get through. I'm going to start here, Coyle, with you. The first game, Blue Bulls, -10.5 against the Glasgow Warriors.
Funny enough, I actually missed the Bulls last week when they played Benetton. What was that handicap, by the way? Because they ended up winning by, it was pretty close, was it, to the handicap in the end?
It was like
was it? Wow. Okay, so they never covered it, eh? Yeah, so they battled to beat the cap. Yeah, if anything, I go for the Bulls here. But it's not a confident bet, eh? I haven't really been following the URC as much as I wanted to. Glasgow, yeah, they got a couple of decent players. A bit of a lackluster performance then by the Bulls last week, certainly, if they didn't cover that cap against Benetton. But Benetton, to be fair, probably have improved somewhat. 10.5 points, you would think perhaps, the Bulls are pretty good enough to do that. But it'll be a small bet and it'll be on the Bulls minus. But yeah, I won't get too involved in that one.
Yeah, just before bringing the conductor on this one, I think the Bulls can beat the handicap. You have 10.5, and I'm looking forward to see what the conductor says on this one.
Yeah, Brent, the Glasgow were poor last week against the Stormers. They got a bit of a spanking. Made 7 changes from what I see, basically lining up Robbie Ferguson's back in the front row, along with George Turner. So it's all Scottish all Scottish international front row. I think Rob Hardy's back, Ryan Wilson's back. So yeah, I mean, I would take. I like the -10.5 here. The only thing that concerns me, and it actually pisses me off, is the international teams or the touring teams are allowed to slow the game down to walking pace. It happened in the Benetton game. It happened in the Connacht game. And it's happened also in the previous games where the guys played altitude. Every second break, every second ruck, there's a stoppage. There's a guy doing his boots back up. He's clutching his knee. Water boy's on. So all the advantage of altitude is negated when guys slow the games down so drastically. I mean, obviously there's a point of gamesmanship. I've got no issue with that. But it becomes blatant when they're doing it every second. Like I said, every second minutes they're going down, touching the knee. Happened heavily in the Connacht game, and it more for the spectators. It just kills the game because eventually you want to switch channels and you maybe watch a bit of F1 or tennis or whatever, because anything is quicker than that rugby because it's so slow. It just takes forever to get the game completed. So I'm on the -10.5. I think the Glasgow Warriors will slow it down heavily. I see that Weir's probably brought in at 10, and with him and Ali Price, I expect a lot of box kicks. Obviously, Bulls are going to be missing Curtly Orense. He fractured his thumb. So Conan Mooney comes in at 15. James Verrett-Am at wing. I like Verrett-Am. And obviously, Mornay is at 10 with Zach Berger. Adenoberta back into the Bulls lineup. So good Bulls side. I backed him to cover this handicap. I can only hope that the Georgian referee just keeps the game at pace and doesn't allow them to slow it down.
Right, let's move on to the next game then. I agree with your comments there on the slowing of the game down. Munster -14.5 against the Cardiff Blues, conductor.
Brent, I've got no bet here. Cardiff have been awful last week. I saw an interview with Dai Young. He was like, he is in hell right now. It just seems like the whole atmosphere around Cardiff is just terrible. They lost badly at home to Ospreys. They got spanked the other day by Scarlets. They had a nice sort of European game against Saracens, but apart from that, it's just been poor. And they've got some really good players. I really like Jared Evans. I really like both of them in the VD and the loose. Seb Davies, they've got some quality players. I just think they're missing a guy like Willis Halaholo. He's out. But yeah, I think Max Llewellyn. I just don't know if he's doing the job there. But there's no bet for me. Munster also missing a couple of players, missing Damien Delende. I see there's a Kellenen at 7. He's, I think, one of the academy players that's come through. And Connor Murray at 9. for me is a little bit slow. So I'd probably be probably in the plus. I have no feel in this game at all.
Right. Coyle, anything for you on this game?
Yeah, funny you mentioned that about that Georgian referee. I see you got a write-up in the Planet Rugby this weekend. I cannot stand this Oak. This Oak is an absolute clown. So if he's in charge of the Bulls game, that's a big red flag for me because he's incredibly pedantic and he's awful. He will probably play into the hands of the old the Warriors, I would say, slowing it down. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to really think about that one. He's horrible that referee. Anyway, back to this game. Munster, big rotation, a lot of players out. I agree. Cardiff, I don't know what's gone wrong with them. They used to be quite an exciting side. Could score tries from anywhere. In fact, there were some. I mean, they were very inconsistent most of the time, but they could score some fabulous tries. But that inconsistency now has just become quite consistent losses. And I just don't know where they're going to turn it around. What did you say the handicap was, Brent?
14.5.
14.5. Yeah, you know what? I'd probably give them the benefit of the doubt because they're the kind of team then that you write them off at your peril, and all of a sudden they score a few of those fabulous tries that they can do. And exactly like what the conductor says, you know, they do have the players, but they're just not performing. So with that in mind, with the rotation with Munster, the plus 14.5, not a big bet, but more confident, let's say, now than the Bulls game.
Right. I actually quite like Munster on the minus here a little bit. I know they've rotated, but I've been quite impressed with their depth this season, and Munster have just been one of those sides, one of the few who've been pretty good to me. We're going to stick with you, Coyle. Lions minus 11.5 at home to Benetton. Have the bookies perhaps overreacted to that Bulls result? Can we get a nice minus here on the Lions, or do you think the Benetton can grab a plus?
Yeah, I'll go with your former there. I actually like the Lions here a little bit. I think it was just an under par performance by the Bulls. Benetton, yeah, they might have played their best game of their tour against the Bulls last week, and I think they're there for the taking, and hopefully the Lions, can rip them apart. Weather-wise, I didn't have a look. You guys have had all your rain, and I guess it's drying out now. Yeah, so that's good. Yeah, so I'm reasonably confident with the Lions on the minus here.
Right, conductor.
Yeah, Brent, if you had the Lions to win last week, you'd be absolutely filthy with that last scrum. Once again, I have no idea how that was never picked up. When you've got the flanker of Connacht hooking it back out of the scrum, not picked up by about 8,000 officials who we have these days. But it's amazing how when there's a late hit on somebody, there's always like 50 angles. But when it's so blatant, the scrum was actually getting smashed. Craig Evans allowed it to be played on. So you'd be filthy if you're a Lions supporter. You'd be filthy just purely because it's actually shocking refereeing. Should be stamped out. And I'm not talking about it as South Africans. I'm talking about it as a rugby supporter. And we want consistency in these decisions. So I felt Connacht got away with one last week. I'm all over Lions here on the minus. I don't think they had a great game. I think they will play better. What I must say, I did enjoy about the Benetton performance. They were very positive against the Bulls. Nice quick taps. Really looked to take the Bulls on. Deval Dibanacha really, he was attacking. The guys trying to take it to the Bulls. I hope they keep that same sort of attacking flair because I think there'll be a lot of points in that game. Andrew Brace's referee, like Brennan says, is clearing up now. It's becoming winter. We should have a nice sort of nice clear autumn day here in Joburg. So I like the best minus that I can get. And if we can get around 55, 56, I will take the overs there. I've been impressed with this. I've really been impressed with this Lions team. I think they've come on in leaps and bounds. I like this. There's actually been a bit of continuity in selection now with Jordan Hendricks starting at 10. Good centre combination, good for starting front row. Sorry, off the top of my head, the number 7 for the Lions has been fantastic. The guy that's going to the Sharks, I just can't remember him now, but he's just been amazing. So and Morne van der Berg, Vincent Stuka. Sorry, that's it, Vincent Stuka. And Morne van der Berg has been a revelation compared to under Morne at 9. Nice quick service off the base. So I think we should get a nice high scoring that game there. That's what I'll be looking for.
Excellent. I see Dino just mentioned Johan likes the Lions to smash them. Dino just mentioned he struggles to trust the Lions, and I guess that's my problem as well. But I'm with the boys here. I think the Lions could beat the handicap. Conductor, we're going to stay with you. Sharks -9.5 against the Connacht side that, of course, beat the Lions last week. I was over some Connacht points, so was quite happy with that at the end of the day. But the Sharks, gee whiz, they made hard work of beating
it's shocking again.
Or possibly third string Leinster side.
No, I can't trust the Sharks at all. No. They're so bloody inconsistent. I mean, the only thing that allowed the Sharks back into that game was Leinster going down to 13 for 10 minutes when there was a couple of indiscretions there. And Leinster obviously got on the bad side of the referee, but the Sharks just showing they can be awful at times, they can be great at times. You just never know with Sharks side is going to rock up here. I think Connacht will enjoy the more sort of sea level conditions as opposed to being at altitude. I still think it's not a bad Connacht side. I'm a big fan of Jack Carty. Guys like Paul Boyle, and Kyle and Blade. I really rate these guys. They punch above their weights. Connacht have sometimes, when they've been away from home, they've been awful. But this handicap just looks a bit big to me. The Sharks just really missing Lukanya Ahmed outside centre. He's just so crucial to them. Also missing a guy like Spoon Corsi. He's such a dangerous player. Fussy had a superb effort last week, returning the ball. He can be super dangerous. But I just think there's just too many marquee players there in the Sharks side not earning their butter. So I'm on the Connacht plus.
I'm with you there, Conductor. Can Coyle give us a rubber stamp, or is he going to stick his neck out and back the Sharks?
No, I'm going to go with you guys. Hey, it's the trifecta, I'm afraid. The plus is the way to go for me as well. I agree. Sharks is too inconsistent. Connacht are the team that I love to hate in most cases. But they certainly have improved, and their away form has certainly improved as well. As Henrik would say, he really likes the coach, old Andy Friend, and all that kind of thing. And yeah, look, I must say that the side has improved, and they've shown a lot more resolve, sort of the last 18 months at least anyway. They would take heart from stealing the game against the Lions last week. And I agree, back down at the coast, they'll much prefer that. They'll prefer that environment to Johannesburg, obviously. Like I say, I just cannot trust the Sharks side whatsoever. So for me, the three of us are all involved, all going for the Connacht on the plus. But I'm reasonably confident that they should be able to stay within the cap, and they might even win it as well.
So we'll stick with you, Coyle. Zebra plus 5.5 against the Dragons. If there's one game that I don't mind missing this weekend, it's definitely.
Oh man, that is just an awful, horrible game. If anything, I go for Zebra on the plus because I just cannot back the Dragons. That means the Dragons win it by 10 or 15 because I can't catch the Dragons right no matter what. They're a horrible side, but Zebra are just as bad. So if anything, Zebra on the plus. But that's a game hopefully I won't have to get involved in.
Yeah, well, Henrik Swart will be going under 8.5 total points there with these sides, I think. Conductor, this is going to be a game. I don't want to say for the rugby purists, because I don't think any purists will want to watch this game. This is going to be a game. You've got your son playing in the Zebra side. You're probably going to record the game and watch it later on fast forward.
Yeah, I know, Brent. There's just this is like two drunk people having sex. There's just like limbs everywhere. Nobody knows what's going on. It's just there's no control. It's just like it's just awful. So, but that's actually what makes it beautiful. It's actually going to be so like. It's beautiful. It's beauty in like the awfulness of it. So like it's like if zero, a lot of intent, a lot of endeavor, but probably very little skills. So, and it's actually going to be quite. I probably might actually switch over to watch it because I'd love to see the points line here because I think the points line might be actually gold mine if some bookie makes a mistake of pricing up at about 50.5 or something. But Zebra played okay against Edinburgh last week. They pushed them all the way. Even though Edinburgh had a red card, but no, this is going to be like you say, one for the purists. In Palmer, two horrible teams. No, you'd be silly to involve any money here. You're only going to lose here somewhere.
Okay, so let's move on then to the Ospreys up against the Scarlet. Another game that probably doesn't really get the blood, the heart beating too hard for the weekend. We got Ospreys here, Conductor plus 1.5.
Yeah, Brent. To be honest, I haven't done enough reading. This is just too far beyond my radar to give a qualified opinion on. Scarlets have been playing good rugby of late. Funny enough, their games have actually been quite high scoring. Ospreys had a good win last week, but I've got no feel. I wanted to be quite frank with you. I didn't even watch that Ospreys versus Cardiff game. I have no idea who started there, who's back for Cardiff. I mean, who's back for Ospreys, who's back for Scarlets. I have zero feel on this game, Brent, to be honest.
Right, let's see if Coyle's got anything for us on this one.
Yeah, the Welsh. Jeepers, 2 Welsh teams. You can throw the form out the window and just go opposite to whatever you think might happen. I find this so often with sort of Welsh derbies, especially. So initially, I kind of looked at the Ospreys on the plus 1.5. Everything I've seen so far is Scarlets on the minus 1.5. So I'm probably going to lean towards Scarlets on the minus 1.5, but it's not going to be a big bet. It's just going to be an interest bet purely, and I probably expect to lose because I think Scarlets will win. That means Ospreys are probably a good thing.
Yep, I must say, after listening to Brendan there, I've got absolutely no idea what you're actually betting on that game. That's for sure. Johan sharing his weekly treble with us there at 5.8 to 1. Coyle O'Connell, we're going to stick with you for the next game. The Stormers have been absolutely on fire. They play against Leinster. The other quick look how I handicapped this game as a matter of interest. I handicapped this game 12.5. So I've got to say I should be leaning towards the Stormers on the minus, but you're going to sway me one way or another, I think, Coyle.
So your handicap was around the 12.5, and it's come out around 8.5 or so. Yeah, I agree with you. Stormers. I'm pretty strong on the Stormers here. I think I'll also be looking for an unders quote. I think the Stormers' defense is excellent, and I don't think they're going to concede a lot of points. And as a result, unders will certainly be sort of my main bet, I'd say. And then I do fancy Stormers. Sometimes, through the decades, Stormers have been a tough team to catch on the handicap. They don't normally put away sides, but I think with conditions good, I think they'll be good enough. And the minus 8.5 certainly is the way I'll be leaning, but unders will probably be my main bet here.
Yeah, interesting that one. I think maybe the bookmaker's reading quite a bit into the fact that Leinster ran the Sharks close, but I just thought the Sharks were terrible. I must say I was on under Leinster points in that game, and I was very disappointed in the Sharks' defence. I think the Stormers will tighten it up. But Conductor, are you going to talk me out of it or convince me to have a go?
No. All other Stormers. Yeah, this is probably one of my strongest bets of the weekend. Look, the bet can lose, obviously, but I just thought Sharks, like you say, Sharks were absolutely toilets. They couldn't do anything correct, and which has been the story of their season. Lots of stars, but 0 out of 5 for effort from a lot of their stars. So Sharks are awful. For me, Stormers are the best SA team at the moment by a mile. Just playing incredible rugby. I really feel sorry for the Leinster guys coming up against the front row of Kotza, Malhadba, and Kitshoff. It is just a monster front row. And I believe Andrew Porter's not playing against Stormers, so it's going to be a long day. I feel for them. Warwick Lunt is playing probably the best rugby of his career at the moment. I think Willems has found his niche at centre, and I've been super impressed with Moni Lebok. He's also playing superb rugby off both feet, just really playing well. Yes, of course, Leinster can possibly cover this. I don't think they're going to. I think Stormers win by 15 or more. I think this should be a convincing win here. I'd be just very, very disappointed if they don't cover. Stormers have in the past been inconsistent as well, but I'm eating humble pie like 3 courses a day about John Dobson. He's really strung these guys together. And reignited a guy like Moni Lebok, who came from the Bulls with very little confidence, went to the Sharks, didn't find a place there, and is playing very, very good rugby at the Stormers. And Dion Fourie being back as well. He's so pivotal, absolute mongrel dog in the breakdown areas, in the dark arts. So I'm all over the Stormers minus there.
Quick question for Coyle, rugby fan Coyle. I don't think you can see the comments at the moment there at the gym. He's asking what unders line would you want to play at? I think you were looking at Leinster unders there. What would you be looking at? Total unders.
Yeah, total unders. I reckon around the 49.5 I'd be comfortable with.
And what would that relate to Leinster then? somewhere around 30,
so
27, somewhere around 21 and a half.
yeah, I was going to say 20 almost. Yeah, somewhere
Yeah.
around there maybe. 20, 21 and a half.
So we'll
Yeah.
keep an eye on that
Somewhere
one.
around there.
Maybe Coyle will post that in the Good for the Game forum if he likes it. There is a link
Yeah,
to the forum.
cool.
And also, of course, the best bet newsletter last week was heartbreaking. Did go for the Sharks -3.5. Felt bad when the newsletter went out because the line changed so quickly. So I sent an alternative bet, Gloucester to win at 8-10, and they got beaten like after the hooter virtually. Well, it wasn't quite after the hooter, it was just before. But that not only cost us that, it also cost me the 10-1 ACCA last week, that Gloucester thing. So yeah, a bit grumpy after that, but let's wrap up the URC so we can move on to the Gallagher Premiership. Edinburgh, and let's go with conductor here. Edinburgh -1.5 against Ulster. And what do you think of this one?
Yeah, Brent, I haven't been all that awfully impressed with Edinburgh. I thought they were very poor. Like I said, even though I had red card, I thought they were awfully poor. I like Ulster. Yeah, they've had two, games to lose, heartbreak, Hotel, sort of last minute try against them. Didn't have a great game against Munster last week. Their 10, who I really like. I want to say Moby, but his name's not Moby. There is that short little winger.
Michael Lowry.
Michael Lowry, that's it, not Moby. Lowry. Sorry, thanks, Coyle. Michael Lowry,
Moby.
dynamic little player, and they put him at 10. So I'm hoping. I haven't, like I said, Brent, unfortunately, I haven't been able to do much investigation. I'm not sure if Dwayne is back this week. I'm not sure if Billy Burns is back this week either. They make such a big difference. But other than that, Hume I like Hume and McCloskey center combination. A really big fan of Bolakoon. Similarly, on the Edinburgh side, I'm not sure if Buffelli is back for them. So because I think Van der Walt was at 15 for that Zebra game. But I still I very much like Ulster on the plus here. I really, I'm a very big fan of the way they're coached. A really big fan of the club. I just think they're quality outfits. I'm very fancy the plus here.
For Peter Paul fans, it's also to win, right? Coyle, this is the last of the UFC matches getting to the Gallagher Premiership. What's your call here?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really important to find out whether or not Dwayne Vermeulen's playing and if Michael Lowry remains at 10, because he was exposed quite badly last week against Munster. Having said that, if the old Billy Burns, the old Beavis and Butthead crew is back at 10, then I'm on Ulster. If neither, if Lowry's still at 10, I'm probably going to go with Edinburgh, but only on a small bet. I haven't put much thought into this, but my sort of gameplay was basically whether Lowry played at 10 or remained at 10 or not. That was going to be kind of my decision maker on this game. Other than that, I totally agree. Ulster being a revelation, they've really had a great season, but I just, they were disappointing against Munster last week or the week before in the Champions Cup, and if Lowry's still at 10, I'm on Edinburgh.
Yes, let's move on to the Gallagher Premiership. And Coyle, I'm going to start with you. Northampton Saints +3.5. I'm going to ask you just to move your mic a little bit away because it sounds like you might have moved onto the treadmill. You're breathing like I should imagine the conductor breathes on most weekends. And we've got Northampton Saints +3.5 against the Harlequins.
Two similar styles of play. Tomorrow, 2:00. That's when we'll know. When they'll announce the teams for the weekend. I don't expect any big major surprises. Saints, there's hot competition now for the top 4 and the playoff positions in the Gallagher Premiership. 4th position is currently held by Saints. And if they don't pick up anything here, they could actually drop down to 5th only. So it's not a disaster for them if they lose. Harlequins, they came back last week. They're just a phenomenal side. Yeah, they're never down and out. 3.5 points, though. Yeah, I think this could go down to the wire. Saints can be inconsistent, but I think now they've got the bit between their teeth, and I think they're going to go close. +3.5 handicap. if anything, believe it or not, I'm probably going to lean towards the home side. I think they're going to have a huge fan base behind them at Franklin Gardens. It's a big stadium. I think it's going to be a packed full house, and that might just be enough for them to stay within the 3.5 point handicap. I think it's going to go right down to the line, though.
Right, let's go to conduct on this one. Sorry, Brent, I'm just pushing it a bit. I can hear my generator spluttering in the background there, and I'm worried I'm going to run out of diesel and the thing's going to pack in totally. But let's go to conduct on this one then. Conduct, I can also tell you the points line here, 56.5.
Yeah, Brent, I'll try and be quite brief. Courtney Law is back for Saints. He's a big addition there. It's such a key game for Saints there. I'm not a big fan of that. Their front five. Obviously, a much stronger front five for Quins. Grayson at 10. I like Fairbank at 15. Very attacking Saints side. Billy Proctor loves the meat pie. But similarly, Marcus Smith is just bossing rugby at the moment. He's just playing phenomenal rugby. I'll probably look at the overs there. I'm not too sure of Matthew Carley's reffing style. I'm not too sure if he's unders or overs. I'll have to try and investigate, but I'll probably not get involved in the cap. I'll probably just look at something in my best overs bet there. Both teams love to run it. Even though it's Friday night rugby, I think it'll be attacking nonetheless. But push on the handicap, probably edge towards Saints, plus they desperately need this game. And Harlequins had a very, very tough game against Tigers, so might just be a little bit flat.
Right, let's stick with you for the next game. The Sale Sharks minus 15.5 against the team that Coyle put up last week that unfortunately let him down horribly, the Newcastle Falcons. Conductor, what do you make of this one?
Yeah, Brent, it is a big handicap. I mean, I think the Sale Sharks social media guys have been teasing the whole week about AJ McGinty being back. If he had been back, I would have taken this with confidence. He's not back. Still Rob Dupree at 10, so Faf at 9. The big thing here is Newcastle Falcons pack is going to get dominated. I don't like a Sale Sharks big minus. They don't like covering big minuses, but in this instance, they do need a bonus point. Falcons have nothing to play for, which makes them dangerous. But they have a injury in front row, so one of the guys is shifting from Tate to Loosehead. And against Sale Sharks, that's a no-go. So you can't arrive there with powder puff scrum. And I watched the highlights of the Newcastle Falcons Irish game. Irish absolutely bossed them up front, and with Tom Curry being back as well, I think this Falcons side is going to get destroyed up front. I've seen minus 13 in places. I'd probably want to take a little bit or under 2 converted tries, especially with Rob Dupree's kicking. But minus for me is the way to go.
Right, Coyle, your opinion on this one? 51.5 points left, Coyle, by the way.
Yeah, I agree. On paper, and certainly in the front, Sale should dominate, and that should mean a lot of penalties. But I am worried, I am concerned that Sale don't cover a lot of caps. So that is concern on that side. And if McGinty's not playing, like the conductor mentioned, I'm going to avoid this game. For the Falcons so big last week, and they were just absolutely awful. I can imagine them bouncing back here and screwing me over if I went for Sale. But the fact that Sale don't like covering big caps is good enough for me just to stay out of this one.
Right, let's go to the next game, and I see one of the games was Sunday, so I'll come back to that one at the end. But here we got Brendan Gloucester and Coyle Gloucester Rugby minus 12.5 against Bath.
Gloucester last week, they were unlucky. Well, they're unlucky. Bristol were superb. They got a red card sort of in the last 11 minutes or so, and still managed to keep Gloucester at bay, scoring sort of an unconverted try, I think, to eventually win the game. Gloucester, they were a form team for much of the season. They certainly looked the part at times against Bristol, and you would expect them now back at home that they'll win the game. Whether they can beat the handicap, I'm not sure. Bath are steadily improving. They were leading at half time last week before capitulating in the second half, but there's improvement there, and it has shown. Gloucester, they can be a tricky side at times to put away teams. They can score some glorious tries, but at the same time, they can also be quite leaky on defense. It's a very important game for them, obviously, vying for that fourth position. if anything, I'm going to lean basically towards Bath on the plus 12.5 a little bit, but only just for an interest. Yeah, and that's about it.
Right, conductor.
Yeah, Brent, I'll take a big Gloucester on the minus here. As Brendan says, this is an incredibly important game for Gloucester. Bath have nothing to play for. So yeah, I'll take a big strike here. I think they're going to be kicking to that corner, and that weapon of a driving maul is going to be in full effect. I probably would like to look at the points line as well. Bath played some lovely attacking rugby, some very positive rugby against sorry, it just escaped me last week against Sherbets. Sorry, look out to me now.
They don't look at me. I just know they were plus
against,
2.5, but I couldn't remember who they were playing.
I played some very attacking rugby against Northampton Saints.
Yeah,
Will Muir really playing well, Rokanuguni playing well. With that Spencer Cipriani combination is very attacking. So if we get a lowish line there, I'd like to look at overs as well there. But my main preference is in the minus. Gloucester need the win plus 5 points.
Right, we'll stick with you then for the next game. This is the one I hadn't typed up, but I quickly brought it in. Worcester plus 21.5 against Saracens, conductor.
Brent, if you can try and find minus 20.5, this to me is a golden bet. Worcester played their strongest team last night against Gloucester in the Premiership Rugby Cup, so which means they may play the same team, but if they do, they're going to be a bit tired. Saracens awfully impressive. They beat a good Exeter team by I think 15, 16, 13, 14, 15 last weekend. So I think they're going to do big damage here to Worcester. Saracens need a bonus point win, and like I said, Worcester basically outlined what they wanted to do in terms of they played their strongest team during midweek because that was their focus to make the Premiership Rugby Cup final, and they did that this weekend. All over Saracens.
Right, Saracens for a big one there. Coyle, are you rubber stamping that one?
Yeah, rubber stamp it all the way. It's one of my best bets of the weekend. Also, that minus 20.5 is the way to go. That's crucial. Even take the 8 to 10 if you can. Just take minus 20.5 instead of the 21. I like Saracens. Especially when they play away from home as well. And as a result, yeah, I'm all over Saracens here as well. Rubber stamped and one of the best bets of the weekend. Yeah.
Rubber stamp package and ready to go. Let's get into the Leicester Tigers minus 10.5 against the Bristol Bears, who certainly broke my heart last week. I think it was them that came back to beat Gloucester. Leicester Tigers minus 10.5, Quill.
Sure. So I've been waiting for Leicester to lose the game in the sort of the Premiership in the last couple of weeks, or the last couple of let's say the last 2 months, and I've kind of always sort of I've got it wrong, and I went for them quite strongly last week against Quins, and lo and behold, they get beat. Yeah, I like Bristol Bears here on the plus. It's one of my better bets of the weekend as well. I'm just taking the viewpoint perhaps that Leicester might take a little bit of a wobble from that loss last week. They've had a terrific season. It's been outstanding. They have a fantastic team. But Bristol, I certainly think that they're a team to watch next season. And they're finishing strongly. And yeah, I think they're going to take it. They're going to run them close here.
Right, conductor. I got a feeling you're going to go against him here.
Yeah, I think the Leicester Tigers is probably one of my best bets of the weekend. Minus, I just haven't read too much. I'm not sure if Julian Montoya should be back. I don't know if Freddie Stewart is back because obviously Burns I think was at 15 for the Tigers. They'll want to get 5 points here. My main reason is just that Bristol Bears just missing too many players. Bedlow red card last week, so he won't be featuring. Missing guy awfully like Semi Randrandra. So Bears have their fair share of guys missing. At Tigers, I struggle to see how Bears are going to hold on here. Look, they managed to claw on against Gloucester for that win, but it was far from convincing. The Bears haven't been the Bears of old. This Tigers team, there's just too many good players. There's just too much depth. And especially, they didn't. I don't even. Genge didn't even start the game against Quins. I think he was on the bench. So I expect a full team against Bristol Bears. And I think up front, the Bears just don't have the mustard.
Right, let's go to the last game of the weekend then, as far as the show goes at any rate. And we'll start with you, conductor. London Irish -2.5 against Wasps.
Yeah, Brent, that's going to be an absolute crack of a game. I'm really looking forward to this. Irish love to run it, as do Wasps. It's some big battles here. A guy like Alfie Barbary against Albert Tuasui. Wingers like Josh Bassett and against Carl Rowe in Irish. Two good goal kickers in Paddy Jackson versus Jimmy Gopeth. Jacob Umango loves to run it. That loose show of Wasps is absolute six. It's Brad Shields, Jack Willis, and Alfie Barbary. It's incredible. I love that. And Elliot Stuke, some really good ball players there. Launchbury, absolute six. So, and similarly, Irish love to run it. So, really good guys like Ollie Hassel-Collins, Carl Rowe, even Jans van Rensburg's been playing great rugby at the moment. Fibs with that absolutely quick off the base. I'm not too sure of Craig Maxwell-Key's reffing style, but if we can get around 55.5, I think this is going to be a crack of a game in London on Sunday afternoon. Oh, sorry. My bet. It's going to Wasp plus 2.5 will be my bet.
I figured you were just going to be on overs there, so I didn't even worry about the handicap. But let's Coyle wrap us up for the Gallagher, then we'll quickly get into the best bets.
Yeah, best bet of the weekend for me is Wasp plus 2.5. I think this is actually belter and golden, and I'll be putting the old kids' college fund on this one.
Excellent. Wasps 2.5. That's a confident pick by Coyle O'Connell there. Right, gentlemen, let's get into the best bets. And Coyle, I'm going to start with you. What are your best bets for the weekend?
Yeah, so certainly I like Wasps on the plus 2.5 best bet. Second best bet is probably Saris on the minus, certainly 20.5. If I can get that at 8 to 10, that'll be that one. Third best will be the unders in the Force Blues game, and that's good enough for me.
That's more than enough as far as the best bets go. I look forward to listening to this in slow motion tomorrow morning, trying to figure out which best bet goes into the newsletter. Let's see what the conductor's got to say.
Brent, just going through quickly in Super Rugby, I like the Waratahs plus, and looking at the point, I'll see what I get in the points. I'll probably set Waratahs overs, but my far strongest fancy for rugby is Drew on the plus. I think they're going to be up for it. Look at their left wing, Habosi, Banyanya Habosi. He's just absolutely pace on two legs. In the URC, I really like the Lions to cover that minus, as well as the Stormers. Then in the English Premiership, really like Leicester to cover against Bristol. And that's my favourites.
I must say, old Brendan O'Connell might be a bit worried that some of your best bets were going against fancies of his. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be pretty confusing working out the best bets for me, the accumulator. But you can subscribe to that newsletter down below the show. Gents, thanks very much. A great show. Plenty of rugby to talk about at the moment. I know, like you guys as well, are also looking very forward to the internationals coming back. So I am looking for that. Hope you win lots of money this weekend. Dino says to me, Dino, I certainly hope so, because I have to, as you say, pay for all the diesel in my generator. What a place we live in at the moment. But guys, thanks very much. Thanks obviously to all the guys in the live chat. Great contributions as always. Brendan O'Connell, 5 more minutes on the treadmill for you, and then I'm going to let you go home.
Thanks, guys.
Excellent. Conductor, have a good one, mate. Judging by your pronunciation and that last on your best bets, I think we caught you just in time for the end of the show.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks very much, guys. Thanks for watching.
Cheers.
And we'll see you next week for the Handicap Rugby Chat.